deep dive mythology,
lore,
Dungeons and Dragons.
Hello and welcome
to the Creative Thinker Podcast.
We can all remember the first time we played Halo and we saw Master Chief come on the screen. We started shooting those aliens. Man, there's so many good memories playing Halo Combat Evolved. My name is Henry Moon. Thank you for joining us. I am joined by
Michael Vasquez.
We're doing another Master Chief episode, the year of Halo, as we dive into the mythology and all of the fun in the universe of Halo. We have our books.
Yeah, we sure do. These are dope books right here. If you are not, or if you are a Halo fan and you don't have these books, super interesting. They give you a lot of detail and lore. And what are we all about here? We're about
Story.
Repurposing stuff for our worlds. If you want to create a sci-fi world, this is a very interesting start to a sci-fi world. If you wanted to create like the beginning of space exploration and things like that, very detailed. Super excited to dive a little bit more into the Halo mythos.
And what a great just jumping off point for a protagonist. I mean, up until the TV show, he didn't take his helmet off, right? We didn't see his face. He took his helmet off.
He's only taken his helmet off. Well, he's taken his helmet off twice. First at the end of the game that we're going to be talking about today. And if you clip through this and you clip through the game, there's a way where you can see what his face looks like underneath when he takes his helmet off. And it's one of the best videos ever because when he takes his helmet off, there's another helmet there. So Master Chief never reveals his face.
I've been seeing those memes. That's why I was wondering where it came from. But I was seeing memes where for the show guy, he takes his face off and then he's got a helmet underneath. It's like just 20 panels of that.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's what it's from. It's from the first game. There was a glitch at the end because like it's supposed to be like you don't see the face as he takes his helmet off. Like the cinematic kind of goes around. And then, if you glitch it in, you can see he just takes it off and it's another helmet. And then we have at the end of Halo 4, he takes his helmet off, but you literally just see like this part of it. You just see his eyes, you don't actually see his full face. Aside from that, Master Chief has never had his face revealed.
Until also his Mr. Cheeks were revealed. Anyway.
Until we got good old Jimmy Rings from the Halo TV show. But we were not talking about the Halo TV show today.
We are
you
not.
listened to us bash on it the other day. We're not here to do that. We're here to...
as fun as that is.
Yeah, as fun as and angry as it makes me. We're going to be talking about where it all started. It started from Halo Combat Evolved. If you're not familiar with what Halo Combat Evolved is, it was a game on the Xbox that came out, I want to say late 2001. It was Xbox flagship video game that they put out to kind of, in the console wars between Xbox and PlayStation. Xbox put this out, and I think it fought against PlayStation 2's games at that time. But it was one heck of a game. It changed gaming, and it sounds kind of, iffy to say that it changed gaming, but we'll get into the reasons why it has changed gaming. And more importantly, like we said, we're here as storytellers. So what can we take from this story and how can we incorporate it into some of our own stories?
I think at the time when it came out, I was a little bit younger. So the only way I could play shooter games, which all my friends were playing, was to play ones that you were shooting aliens. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I had not made the transition to games that were rated M for mature.
Yeah.
But when Halo came out, I was ready with that argument. Hey, Mom and Dad, it's just aliens. It's not for nudity. It's just for violence, man. It's just like bright blue. I'll show you a video of aliens getting killed. It's not violent.
And you got to think, I know, right? At the time that it was coming out, the other games that were out, and apologies, I don't have the research on this. I'm just doing it from memory because I lived in that time. Was like Medal of Honor games or like Call of Duty games, and a lot of people were advocating to play those because they were history, involved games. Most of them followed the different war fronts of World War II. But again, especially early on, if you were still in your parents' house, and at that time it was like, well, this is kind of frowned upon because you're having to kill other humans. Like that's already, a tough issue, and a lot of people already had to go through a lot of those, kind of atrocities in real life. And seeing in a video game people make fun of killing other people, like it was kind of tough in that time. So when Halo did come out, I know a lot of my friends were able to play it, the campaign, because like you said, you're not shooting other humans, you're not fighting other people, you are fighting to save humanity.
And for those of you who are not students of history, this has been replaced in entertainment all throughout the ages, right? Like where the older folks in society always argue against whatever the pastime is of the youth. So I read this, I think it was early 1800s newspaper article that was talking about how books and reading are destroying today's youth. So because it is not a productive pastime, and that's always the older you get, that's the more you want to endorse in your children is don't sit around, do something. So it wasn't video games that was the first thing to come across that with.
So with all of that being said, we're going to dive into
deep dive
Halo
we always
Combat
say. We
Evolved.
should make a t-shirt that says deep dive. We say it so much.
Yeah, for real. I want to say deep dive, but if we were to deep dive into this, we would be here for hours. I think the other day I got on a Halo rant when we were talking about the show, and I think I ranted for a solid hour and a half of stuff just based off of my memory over the entirety of the Halo lore.
That was that thick mayonnaise.
Yeah, it sure was. It sure was. So we're talking about Halo Combat Evolved. Let's go to what is the story of Halo Combat Evolved for those who are uneducated about what Halo actually is about.
I'm uneducated.
Per
Teach
Halopedia,
me.
Halo focuses on John 117, the Master Chief, and the crew of the UNSC Pillar of Autumn, which is a ship, who, fleeing from the fall of Reach, stumbles upon the Forerunner Halo Installation 04, only to be forced in a desperate battle against the Covenant and eventually the Flood.
And for 13-year-old me, he had a hot AI assistant.
I know, right? Yeah. that AI, that super glitchy AI. Everyone was like, ew, Cortana.
Super square animation. That's what you'll love in an AI woman. Anyway, sorry. I'm crossing over some lines here. Moving on.
Anyway, so again, the story focuses on John, who is a super soldier, which we could go into the history of what that entitles, but for the sake of super soldier, everyone knows what a super soldier is, right? Isn't Avengers like Captain America and what's the other guy? Winter Soldier?
Yeah, Winter Soldier is a guy. Iron Man's a guy.
No, not Iron Man. They're all super soldiers, right? They had augmentations done to their body. So you think of super soldier, think of, a bunch of Captain Americas, right? That should put the idea of the military person that you're playing, but instead of a shield, he has green armor that looks like they describe him in the books and in a lot of the mythology is looking like a Greek warrior with this green suit of armor, and it's got a helmet with this golden visor. I can show you the golden visor and kind of what half the helmet looks like, but all green, and stands like 7 feet tall. Oh yeah, right here. And stands about 7 feet tall in the armor. And so, master of everything. They've been in combat at this point up to about 30 years. So, as someone who is super nerdy about Halo, I'm going to go second.
Perfect.
What is it about the story that piqued your interest, Henry, of Halo Combat Evolved?
About the story?
Or the mechanics, whatever you want to talk about that really piqued your interest.
I wanted to go to video game creator school when I was about this age. So that was my plan with my adult life. Obviously, that panned out. Anyway, so that's what I wanted to do. So I was super into I believe, I'm getting off track here, but what I remember from that time was that this is an Unreal Engine game. Is that true?
I don't believe so. I don't think Unreal Engine was around at that time.
It totally was. Unreal Tournament, bro. Are you kidding? Okay. Well, anyway, the engine of the game and the fact that the physics of it and the high jumping and all that stuff was very similar, I'll say, to Unreal Engine games at around that time. And so one of the things that I remember being super into was the weight of the universe, like the mechanics of how everything worked and how you felt like you were flowing through the Blam engine, huh? How you
So the Blam engine, just for those who don't know, Blam is what
Blam.
on the Bungie.net. So Bungie are the creators of Halo, and they had a website that was a very big community website. And if you were to cuss on the website and write out your curse word or whatever, it would show up as Blam. So it's the
Nice.
Blam engine.
Nice. So anyway, I was mistaken as a youth. But I but I just really liked how physically you moved through the world. And I was getting more and more into that kind of stuff online, just looking into game engines. I just thought that was super cool. So I felt like the flow was super smooth. I felt like the reload animations were cool. This is before like Call of Duty had a reload animation for literally everything. I see like meme videos of that where they're like reloading toilet paper and the way that it gets reloaded on games and stuff. I thought that was really cool. And then I thought it reminded me a lot of Doom, which I feel like I've said before. That first game, it felt a lot like the Doom video games. And it also felt a little bit like Republic Commando, the Star Wars game.
Yeah. So actually, Republic Commando, off of memory, I want to say came out around Halo 2.
Yeah, later.
Yeah, later.
But
after.
I got the game way late because I got everything used as a kid. So it's like
right.
it was used and it was down to like $20. So that's when I got it. But like, so I'd been playing Republic Commando until I got Halo. And so it was like all that stuff was sort of merging. And I was like, this is a much streamlined version of every game I've ever liked. I played like a Men in Black video game where you just mash the X button on PlayStation and that's how you shoot. And you can shoot as fast as you mash the button.
Oh, jeez.
And it was like it was insane. Like my thumb was killing me after that game. But I just felt like this was a well condensed play mechanics game, and honestly, I felt like the story was something that I cared about way later because I was doing split screen with my sister, and we always talk over games.
Oh yeah, you're right. You do. I think I've played games with you and with one of my other friends, and they just jumped through the cutscenes. I was like, hey, it gets me in the mood.
Like we played through Borderlands one time. I have no idea what that game's about. Still to this day, I haven't heard a single joke on that game. Nothing, because we just we turn that down and we talk and we just go through and shoot stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's
Borderlands.
That's a fun way to play the game, right? They don't care that you're paying for it. So
yeah, exactly.
Well, it's interesting that you say kind of the gameplay and the mechanics are what initially drew you into the game. For those who are uneducated in first-person shooter games of the time, the way that you could play first-person shooter games was typically on the PC, and typically that's your family's PC, right? So that is
back in the day. What, the family PC?
Yeah. Back in the day, like when you had to either share a PC or I remember playing Max Payne with my older brother, and I had to like control the gun that he was going to be using because he needed the D-pad, or not the D-pad, the number pad to switch over to the weapons. And so that's how I helped my brother play the game. And there were a couple different games like that. And Max Payne was a third-person shooter, I believe. But, you know, like the games that I mentioned before, Call of Duty, Medal of Honor, things like that, you played those on the PC because that was the best way to play first-person shooters. And so this was a console game, and console shooters, if you think of one older game that is a first-person shooter, what older game do you think of?
Wasn't 007 one?
007 GoldenEye is the only, I don't want to say the only, but one of the other big old-school games that came out. Do you remember how to play GoldenEye?
Slappers only. No, I'm just kidding. I haven't. I have no idea.
All right, so you play it on the N64. If you've ever played a Nintendo 64 game, you can't use the thumbstick to look around and move around because what it revolutionized in gaming was the dual thumbsticks, where I can move my character sideways and front and back, or forward and backwards with my left thumbstick, and I can look around the actual world with my right thumbstick. Before that, you had to use a D-pad on the Nintendo 64 controller, which it has 4 directions. So you're kind of having to press it
literally and
see which way you're looking. So it was a lot more clunky than it needed to be. Do you remember Did you play a lot of PC games at all?
Yeah, I mean that was mainly
Before
what I did.
any games before Halo?
Yeah, Republic Commando. Not that it came out before.
Yeah, so
I
we're
played
gonna exclude Republic Commando.
Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy.
Okay, so how many weapons did you have in that? Because I played Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast.
I only played 2 versions, and there was one that had a disruptor rifle, and then the other one it was lightsabers. Everybody had lightsabers.
Okay, so in Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast, typically what you'll have, and in most of the other games at the time, you had as many guns as you had, or as many options for guns as you had number keys. So you would have 1 to 0, and those would be your melee, your grenades, and then your either basic weapons, and then your more advanced weapons, your grenade launchers, and whatever specialty weapons that you had. Halo streamlined that and said you can only carry 2 weapons, 2 weapons at a time, and they did it intentionally. And that's what I enjoyed about it, is because they did stuff intentionally for you to understand how to play the game and how to actually have fun with the game. There was that. I think that might have been it. Anyways, Republic Commando, how many guns do you have?
3, I think. On
Yeah,
the top of my head.
Typically have
It's
3 in the special weapon.
The repeater, the shotgun, the pistol, and a sniper, I think, was the other attachment. And then there's a grenade launcher in there.
Yeah.
And that's like the Republic version of the weapons. And then there's like the Geonosian or whatever version.
And that
of the
would usually
weapons.
replace your specialty weapon.
Yeah.
So Halo is what helped revolutionize the fact that player choice matters. So you can play it however you want to play, right? We can both play now Borderlands, right? But we only have a certain amount of weapons. We have a limited amount that we choose from in our inventory that we play. In Halo, it was the same way. And this is one of the games that really streamlined being able to have player choice. And it creates a slightly different outcome on how you play it. But not necessarily, it's not going to change the story, but it will change the gameplay and the combat mechanics that are happening there. So, all of that being said, Halo revolutionized the gameplay.
I was gonna say, I think Gears of War strategically is the best game ever made.
Yes,
for a first-person shooter.
You're right. Gears of War also came out, I think, like 7 or 8 years after Halo. So Halo was like, Halo's the godfather for a lot of these first-person shooters and third-person shooters that really revolutionized and took that next step. Call of Duty was there, but it didn't really push over until Halo started coming out, and then that's when we started getting like Modern Warfare and started getting some of the newer games, because when Halo came out, it was still Call of Duty 1, Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 3, and then they started creating some of the other ones.
And I mean, something about the computer characters too. I don't know if that's part of the research you did, but the computer characters in, like, say, Doom, because I keep comparing it to Halo, they just sort of like, they round the corner and they run straight at you.
Yes.
Up until this point. And then it's like Halo, it was like you have, the grunts that pop out and then pop back into cover, the things that jump out at you, the things that stay where they're at and sort of like jump left and right to keep from you shooting them so easy,
Yeah. So that is another thing that Bungie was able to incorporate in this game, which really took the step up as AI became a lot more smart. It's funny that we were talking about AI Cortana, but the AI in this game actually made sense and made it tough. And they started to take charge of their surroundings, from NPCs to the people that you're fighting, your allies. There became a lot more witty remarks that happen.
Ooh, yeah.
I think there's a quote that we still say in my gaming group, where it's like, no covenant, you just had to open your mouth whenever like we're playing like Fortnite or whatever, and it's like kind of empty, we're like, there's no one around here right now, and then we get ambushed by a team. It's like, no covenant, you just had to open your mouth, which is a very pivotal moment in the game that happens on the third level. And because the NPCs have this AI in them, that they are able to, for the video game, not the story, they're able to be memorable, right? Sergeant Johnson became a character because the person that played Sergeant Johnson in the first game was so memorable, and the fan had such big fan service, they created a character for him in Sergeant Johnson because he was just the sergeant that was always around.
Dude, yeah, he was the best.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And then again, the AI became a lot more difficult. If the leader of a squad died that you're fighting, then they would run away. The jackals and the grunts that we did a couple episodes back, they would run away when the elite died. When their supervisor died, they're like, "Oh no, what's going on? We need to run." And it became a very interesting mechanic and an interesting game to play because it added dynamic encounters into the gameplay that weren't always going to be the same.
There's one glitch that will always stick with me, and that's like there was a level that I had to clear. I can't remember which one it was, but where I killed the commander, everybody runs off, and you have to kill all of the aliens before you can progress.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like there was some jackal so far back in the map.
Yeah,
because I didn't see him run away. And he was just gone. So I was like, looked over the entire map until I finally found this one jackal running into a wall somewhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, shot it. And it was like moved on. But
yeah. So that definitely happens too. Of course, it's a now at this point 22-year-old game, 21-year-old game.
Yeah. But those were always the fun parts.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. Looking back on it, it's like that's always the fun bit.
Yeah. So and I think what they did very well was make the replayability of this game great. Because you can go through it, and I enjoy it. They added such dynamic things to the game, and we'll get into that here, that it was fun to play, and it's still fun to play. I think I told you the other day I have a crazy amount of hours. I think I said days, but I was a little bit off. It was hours. I think I have something like 300 or 400 hours into just the Halo CE game on my Xbox Live account, which means since it's been active, which does not count me as a kid playing it, which is probably double or triple that.
Yeah, no, that's a lot.
But let's talk about a little bit as to like what makes the replayability of this game so good and what made it so great playing it through the first time. One of the things that again, going back to the original question is what piqued your interest about this game or the storytelling was the mystery and the majesty of stepping out onto the Halo ring for the very first time, and the environment, seeing how it looked and seeing how beautiful it looked. I mean, comparatively to the other video games at the time, and this ring world that has no explanation, and you have to uncover the mysteries of the ring world by playing the game. That is what intrigued me very much so. And they did a really good job on the storytelling storytelling and gameplay for not pushing you too much into knowing what the heck is going on, right? We try and give a lot of background information so it makes sense for you, the listener, to understand what, if you didn't play Halo, like what kind of is going on. But that was also what we got. We can't play the game with you right now and have your first experience through it, but our first experience was so special because it really took you through the game in a way that didn't overwhelm you. They could have told you, hey, all the species that we've listed off in the Halo universe. Hey, you're going to fight jackals on the first level, grunts, elites, hunters. You're going to fight, stealth elites. You're going to find this and that. You're going to have rocket launchers, tanks, and all that. They kept it super simple. The first level, you have 2 weapons, right? You can pick up the alien weapons if you want to, but a pistol, an assault rifle, keeping it super basic, right? So you think from the get-go this is gonna be a super basic game, and then you can see you can pick up the aliens' weapons. You fight base forms. You're down corridors and hallways, right? So you're not getting overwhelmed with all the sensory information, and they're just giving you little bits of information. The Covenant is attacking your ship, right? They're fleeing from a world that is getting that got destroyed. If you're, I guess, caught up with the Halo TV series, that's going to be like the theme of the next season is the fall of Reach. They're fleeing from the fall of Reach because they have another objective that they need to do. In that process, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Okay, so they're just giving you little pieces of information. They didn't even tell you what I just told you, right? They tell you the Covenant is attacking our ship. This alien species, they're attacking the ship. They're boarding the craft. We need to get to an escape pod because we need to land on this ring world. What is the ring world? We don't know. We just need to go there because it's going to be safer than a ship getting blown up in space. So your whole first mission is just trying to get to that one point. You're fighting aliens. You're seeing how they interact. You're seeing the kind of caste system of who's in charge and who's not. Get to the end of the escape pod, and then you get to the second level, and now it's just this open area, and then we get to introduce. You see flying vehicles come and attack you from the very beginning, but they attack you in a way where when you kill one, the other one just runs away. You get to see enemy drop ships, which is interesting right from the beginning. It gives you time to get away from the starting area and then brings a drop ship to where you just were. So I think it's interesting because you don't have to fight them right away, but you start to see the world is more alive as you start to move around the world. Things are reacting to you.
That was another thing that they did that sort of blew me away. I think, like you're saying, there was so much more going on.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like most games, it was like, I know this is wrong, but like 5 people attacking you at once.
Yeah.
And that was as much as was moving on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else was completely still.
Yeah.
And then, you load into Halo and there's a drop ship somewhere in the background. There's something flying around overhead and you have these 15 grunts in front of you, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, this is insane. And then the other thing that they did that was amazing at the time was that they had non-linear missions.
Yeah, so the second mission that you're on, and this is what they did so great in these, I think it's the second and
way ahead of its
fourth
time, right?
mission. Yeah, you get to this point, and as soon as you first start exploring the ring, you go over a hill and you see there's a group of Marines trying to make like a last stand. They're getting attacked by the Covenant, and then dropships are coming down from different areas. Your NPCs are telling you, hey, they're over here. Hey, they're coming over here. Hey, they're trying to flank us. So like your NPCs are giving you information, which is awesome because at the time you didn't really get that from any other game, right? You just kind of had to know. And so after that, they say, hey, there are 3 dropships. You can see more escape pods landing on the ring. It's like, we need to go and save those Marines. And then they don't tell you how or when. They tell you, here's a Warthog, which is the vehicle you can drive.
Oh, that was the coolest.
Here's a gunner.
That's what hooked me.
You don't even need you don't need a second player to be shooting it. But if you're in co-op, you could obviously, one person can be driving, one person can be shooting.
Because I played this great driving game called Midtown Madness. It was a computer game. And it was like set in Chicago, I think the first one. And the animation, I mean, looking back at it, there's no textures, nothing. But there was still landmarks, like the railway system and stuff was in there. So it was like, I'd play that for 1 or 2 hours at a time, just race around the city. It's like a racing game.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was sort of open world where it was like you could go anywhere in the city.
Yeah.
And that was what I started playing video games on.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like Starfighter after that, I think. And, just like the pod racing and all the Star Wars games. But anyway, so once I saw the Warthog, I was like, I'm hooked. And the way you drive the Warthog too, it was like, that's such a cool...
The mechanics of that, again, we're talking about what revolutionized this game. The mechanics of being able to drive the Warthog and how it drove what was crazy because no other
so
first person. Yeah, it was smooth. It made sense. It responded to you very well. So there was a lot of good things going for that game. And then again, after you get the Warthog, it's like, hey, go wherever you need to go. Like this is whatever you want to do. So you really got to explore and go wherever you wanted to. They say, hey, there are kind of these 3 locations, but they don't show it on the screen. It's more of a, what do we talk about? Tell, don't show? What is it?
Show, don't tell.
Show, don't tell. Yeah, it's kind of like that. They show you by saying, hey, there are more Marines in the area that we need to save. And so then you have to go around and find it, but they don't tell you exactly where to go.
It was hands down one of the best couch co-op games too.
Oh, for sure. I think that was also another bonus to that is you're able to play with your friends, not just couch co-op, but then when we talk about multiplayer, you're able to do LAN parties, which if you don't know what a LAN party is when you can connect a bunch of Xboxes together and you can play anywhere between 8 to 16 people.
On the same internet, like in the same house or whatever. So it's like your internet speeds are way faster and everybody you're playing against is in the house.
Yeah. And you don't even need a internet connection for that. You could literally just connect Xbox wires. I think you connected an Ethernet cord from one Xbox to another, and then you create this LAN party because there are a bunch of different Xboxes there, and you're all able to play the same multiplayer game. So it was really like a good communal game to play as well.
Yeah. For sure. I keep derailing with all my favorite features. It's been like 80 now.
No, you're good. So again, just how it slowly progresses over time. Like The weapons, you don't get a rocket launcher until like the third or fourth level, I think. Because I don't think you have one on the first, second level, third level.
The mechanics of that were
Fourth level.
nuts too, because it was like you could shoot a warthog and it would fly off the map.
Everything about it. So one of the things that games tend to do now is they put barriers around, whether it's water, you die when you touch the water. Like I know Fortnite did that in its first season. Like you couldn't get in the water on the outside of the island or else you died. And Halo did the same thing post Halo Combat Evolved, where you would hit barriers. You can't go and explore this part. But what made Halo Combat Evolved so great is you could literally explore anywhere. If you could get to it, you could explore it. There's no kill screen. There's no, okay, you're just gonna die from whatever. You can literally get on top of the map. People learned different ways to blow up the warthog and get up to a certain part of the map because the vehicles wouldn't explode, which is awesome. Yeah, vehicles wouldn't explode, so you could do some crazy trick shots with it. And to the point where I remember my older brother being like, "Hey, let's work on trick shots." So
I just saw a video where they like put plasma grenades under 3 of them and then ran around a mountain. Like they sped through till they get to the other side of the map, and then they start getting shot at by aliens. And then they just sort of like stand there and wait while their shield's going down, and then the warthogs come through and kill all of them.
That's some Mint Blitz action right there.
Yeah.
He does some crazy trick shots, but I mean, back in the day, everyone was trying to do what they could. So it was a beautiful thing to be able to explore wherever. And literally, your imagination was the limit. I think there is a level, Silent Cartographer, which is another level where it is. You can do whatever you want to do. You can bypass the whole middle part of the mission by going around it. I mean, it's awesome. But there's like a little tunnel part of the mission where you're not supposed to be able to get a warthog down. And me and Evan, I think a couple of years ago, ended up getting a warthog down, or me and another buddy were able to get the warthog down there. And it's just still, 15 years later at that point, we're still having fun with the first game and doing stuff that is just limited to our imagination.
I remember doing speed run throughs too, where it was like we didn't fire a single bullet. Like how many games can you just like get all the way through without doing anything too? Like it's just like, okay, I want to do story mode. Yeah, I'm just gonna run through this.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many different ways you could do it, and it was like endlessly fun.
And so
I'm getting excited just talking about it. Honestly, I'm like, let's go play Halo.
All right. So
Thanks for coming to the podcast. Now I'm getting
those are the first couple of levels, and then there's stereotypical things that happen in the game. There's like a little go and retrieve the captain because they got captured by aliens. There's a sniper mission. There's a stealth mission. And it was really cool because it forced you to learn different mechanics, and I think that's an interesting story way to force either, we're talking about players, we're talking about your story. How can we limit the resources that they have, but give them other resources so that they have to learn how to use those? Whether it can be your D&D adventuring party is now going through a tunnel. They have all these dope weapons, but magic doesn't work here. So now they have to rely on, something else. What if it's or have to rely on their wits to get through here? What if it's a place where, their weapons on their backs and stuff won't fit? They have to crawl through these tunnels and they can only use magic. How does that work? How can you create a different challenge for your players or for your group or for your story that really pushes someone to learn and lean on different utilities or different tools that they have in their toolbox, I guess? Which I think is super interesting because you don't get the sniper until the third level, and guess what gets taken away in the third level? The
sniper.
Pistol. No, the pistol. The pistol gets taken away because you've used it in the first 2 levels, and it's OP. Everyone talks about the Halo pistol being OP. It is. It's fun. All right. OP is fun.
Yes.
But they take it away in the third level, so you're forced to learn to use the sniper and other weapons, which I thought was very interesting because again, it forces the player to make it unique in their own way. And then we reach about the 6th level in Halo.
Well, before we do 6th level, in terms of if you're telling your own story, think about, okay, this game is so rich and so big, and it feels like such a wonderful story. And for each level, you have maybe 2 or 3 ways you can get through the level. Like when it comes down to it, like there's different orders you can do everything, and each playthrough is going to feel a little bit different. But at the same time, narratively, there's like 2, maybe 3 ways that you can get through a level, which is not. I mean, it's a tall ask for anybody to come up with more than one storyline, but it is also way less than maybe you're thinking. If you're like, I need to make an open world that my players can get through, or my audience can get through, that they can feel is huge. Well, you maybe only need 2 or 3 things going on per section of the story to make it feel like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And that is a much more reasonable ask than say, hey, make this really huge world that people feel like is way bigger than them.
Yeah.
So just something to think about as a creator, a writer, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you may be doing out there.
So what I also think, if we're going back to the 6th level,
6th level,
what happens here is you rescued the captain already of the UNSC, Captain Keys, right? Keys. And now they feel, through some way, they think that there is they think there's a weapon cache that they can use, because they're on this ring world. They have limited supplies. Their ship just got shot down, and this Covenant fleet is around them. So they have aliens all around them. The aliens are super well equipped. It is literally, you're trying to survive on this ring world, which I really liked the book, The Flood, because it goes over the story of Halo, but it goes through the different perspectives of the other people on the ring. I really enjoyed that because it puts a little bit more depth to the characters. Anyways, they're going to find this weapon cache, and they're going into this kind of like swampy, boggy area. And when they do go there, how you see this story is you have to go and rescue the captain again. And you go to this swamp. You have to fight a couple things to get to this enclosure. And then eventually you see an elevator. And the elevator kind of pops up for you, for the game. You need to go down the elevator. It's very obvious that this is where the transponders that are in their heads that kind of give their location away, this is where you're supposed to be going. And it's also the first level where your AI Cortana is not with you. So for this first level,
that's such a creepy moment in the game too.
It's quiet. All right. Imagine quiet, bog, enemies, and that's it. And so you're kind of hearing like eerie swamp noises, pitter pattering here and there. It's a very ominous feeling and ominous vibe. And as you go down the elevator, you see a couple Covenant. They're patrolling. That seems like they're trying to protect something. You see doors that are blocked off in this structure, and there are more tunnels. So the spaces kind of open up a little bit, and eventually you get to an elite. The enemies that you've been fighting. But we talked about Halo is a super bloody game. It was fun because the aliens have like super colorful blood and stuff like that. But when they die a certain way. When you see this elite, it is opened up from the chest out. And you're like, what is going on here? This is wild. You go through it, and then you find a Marine who is by himself, and he's shooting at you. This is supposed to be your ally. He's shooting at you, and you're like, what is going on? And he's just like, you're not going to take me. I won't let you take me. Not like you did them. And so you're like, again, eeriness here. Now you're deep underground. You've taken this giant elevator. You've gone hundreds of feet down into this ring world, and you have no idea what's going on. This guy's shooting at you, so you have a couple options there on what you need to do. It's the game. So if
pop off.
If you either do it or, it's kind of, it was supposed to be a very intense part where if you don't do it, he doesn't. And it kind of happens that way, where if you don't kill him, you'll hear him keep shooting, and like the gun ricochets off the wall and he ends up dying. And so it's like, oh my gosh, suicide was better than what he just saw. And mind you, the humans have been fighting the Covenant for 30 years, and they're trying to do everything they can to win this fight. You get to this last corridor, and then the corridor opens up, this door opens up, and you see a Marine body falls onto you. And then the Master Chief puts the neural link to see what happened here in the game up to this point. The squad that he's here to rescue, what happened to them, because you don't see any bodies here. He puts it in, and then you see the recording. This is a stereotypical like kind of sci-fi Marines where like there's rock music getting played, and they're like, Sarge, what's going on? And he's like, get it, I'm tired of hearing this shit, blah, blah, blah. Like, we're here to do this and that, and da-da-da-da. And so anyways, this is the recon team that goes in, and they're doing everything. You're following the exact same path in this recording. This is a cutscene here. You're following the same path that you just went down, and it's this eerie feeling of like, okay, yeah, I saw that. Oh, now they're talking about the elite that opened up from the chest, and they're like, well, this wasn't us. Like, well, this doesn't look like plasma fire. Well, what could it be? What weapon did this to this elite? Because we're down here and we didn't see anything that could do this. Leads you back to this corridor where they start hearing you have a HUD. If you don't know what a HUD is, it's heads up display, and most games have one where it tells you where the enemy is at and where your allies are at. Red, bad; green, typically good; blue, typically good. Their heads up display starts popping up red, real big red flashes. They're like, what's going on? What's happening? And then all these little alien creatures pop out of the vents and they start overwhelming this group because they don't know what to do. They don't know what this alien thing is, and ends up killing all of them. In the room that your main character is in, Master Chief is in the same room. No aliens, no bodies, just this one body, Private Jenkins. So now we've taken this first-person shooter, fight against the aliens, kill them, defend the ship, defend and rescue people, to this is a little bit of a horror game now. What's going on? And as soon as the cutscene ends, you start hearing boom, boom. And the room that you're in, the doors are locked, and these aliens are trying to get out now. And it turned this first-person shooter into a horror survive game, because now you're starting to get overwhelmed with what we call the flood. And these species, this alien creatures that are coming out. And again, Bungie did such a great job, and this is a good story point, is they introduced the bad guys one thing at a time. They introduced the flood infection forms. They're these small little like bulbous things, which I say small. Little popcorns. Imagine little popcorn alien creatures that have tentacles that kind of go out of their face. But they're big. They're actually pretty big IRL per the lore. And they introduced that. They introduced these flood creatures, which are like zombies. They're zombie creatures that have tentacles out of their arms. And eventually, they can start carrying weapons. And so they slowly integrate all of these things without telling you any piece of information, which leads us into the next level. Once you're able to get out of this area, the whole rest of the level is trying to get out of where you're at, back up to the surface. When you get to the surface, you find 343 Guilty Spark waiting for you, and he takes you to the library. And then they piecemeal more information to you as you go to the library. Library is one of the most contentious levels, and Halo is one of my favorite levels because it is a slog to get through. But yeah, it is one heck of a story, because then they piecemeal it, and then from there you start getting even different pieces of information, right? We talked about the tier system in our previous Halo episode. There are other systems and classifications that 343 Guilty Spark, who is this little monitor, and I say monitor like you know what it is. It's a little like robot that's probably about this size, and it kind of emits a bluish light, and it's made in this solid kind of steel looking smooth, probably more solid than steel type of material. And it just does its thing. It's leading you through where you need to go in the library, but it's just piecemeal information like, oh, interesting, you brought class 4 armor when protocol says you need to be wearing class 12 armor. Interesting. Oh, you brought such inefficient weapons to combat the flood. It's like, oh, well, this is a threat that's been going on before. Like you start getting information in a way that's not like, okay, guys, here is the lore dump, and here is everything that you need to know about the world that's going on. They made it interesting for you to play through and go, oh crap. If you're listening, which I'm sure you weren't, based on
not the first time.
Yeah,
but I played through that game so many times. Yeah.
So it just piecemeals the information to you. Eventually, the Flood and the Covenant start fighting each other because the Flood was released because of the Covenant. But anyways, that's all.
So much more lore in a different direction.
It is a lot more lore, like you said, in a different direction. But there's a lot of good story points and stuff like that. You end up getting off the ring. You end up being one of the only survivors on this ring world, and trying to think if there's any other like good story points. The captain you went to go and save ends up getting taken by the flood, and you have to like kill him before his transformation completely happens. And it's interesting. You get to play some of the same levels again that you played earlier, but the way that they did it was they made the encounters different. And again, talking about tabletop role-playing games or storytelling, you can use the same location again, but how do you spice it up? Like there are certain levels that you go through again, and we're fighting hunters. We're fighting special ops elites who are invisible, so you can't see. You can only hear and slightly see the distortion of their shadow moving around, and they have swords. So like maybe the sword is the only thing that you can see. The levels get a lot harder and a lot more different and a lot more challenging. And if you're looking at the story, it's like, oh, I'm going to the same spot, but now, the alarms are raised. We're getting more and more defensive. We're on high alert now at this point. And then again, leading to the end, whereas the Warthog run, where you're back on the ship that you ended up, you crash landed on this ring on, and the only way to destroy the ring is to blow up your ship. And in blowing up the ship, you blow up the ring. And in blowing up the ring, everyone on the ring is going to die. So it's like you have to do this at a quick and timely manner, or else you will be a part of the explosion. And yeah.
And that's Halo CE.
Yeah, and that's Halo Combat Evolved in a nutshell. So of all of those things, I just talked a lot. What are your takeaways, man? What are your takeaways as someone who doesn't, and this is going to be my wrap up question, but we can keep on talking about it or not, but what is a takeaway from someone who has listened to this and is like, what is Halo? So like, I've never played Halo. What are my takeaways from that?
Well, I think, first of all, it's a combat story, but it's also one that is so clean that it's easy for it to last. I know we've talked about a lot of mythology so far this year already, where it's like the story has to be cleaned up. Mm-hmm. And it has to remove anything that is fluff in order for it to be carried forward to the next generation. I feel like that's true of all stories, and that's if you're going to have a good jumping off point. Even the first Star Wars movie, if you watch that out of context and just watch it as a movie, there's not much story there. Mm-hmm. There's some, and it's clear enough for it to be entertaining and for them to build off of. And this is that story where it's like there is actually a lot of lore that gets dumped in Halo CE. But it's compared to what it is now.
Yeah.
We were just talking about the different dictionaries. There's 2 versions of the dictionary, and there's a Mythos book.
Yeah. Encyclopedia.
Encyclopedia. And so, like just the amount of lore that has grown and changed. I think your encyclopedia is the newer one. It's like almost 500 pages or something like that.
Thick.
Small print, 500 pages, not a ton of art, enough, a lot, but it's like not, it's mainly words, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And so I mean, like this is that clean jumping off point that makes it beautiful and fun. And I think, like we talked about already, the mechanics made it a lot of what it was for that first game.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I was listening to as far as like the mechanics and things, it was fair, and I think that's something that a lot of games don't get right. And they used Halo 2 for example, because they went hard the other direction where you've seen people rage quit games like, oh, this is BS, I can't believe this happened, and it kind of is, right? Played Halo 2, the Jackal snipers, kind of BS on Legendary, kind of BS, right? One shot kills. You don't really get that. And I think that when I was listening to someone review this, Actman, I listened to Actman review this, he was saying that it felt the most fair, and if you died, it was your own fault. So it was really how you play the game, and especially if you have buddies playing the game, how both of you play the game and can get through the story, because there is no kind of BS situation unless you let it get there.
Yeah, I think also one of the things that's really cool about this game is that, like you pointed out several times in different ways, is like this game was set up to be an invitation to continue. Mm-hmm. Every step of the way, it's like, hey, come along. There's more information. Yep. There's more bad guys. There's more to do. And to where when the game was over, I was like, and games like, aren't like that now. They take like 30 hours to complete, mm-hmm. and you get to the end and you're like, oh, thank goodness it's over. I mean, for me, like 30 hours is a long time to put in a game that is like a narrative thing because I don't know. I was raised on the super intense games that were like 6 to 9 hours and then you're done, you know?
Yeah.
And this was, I mean, Halo, I think was like a 12-hour campaign or something was what they stamped it at.
It's something like that. I think if you spend
the
an
first one
hour
was the
per
longest,
level,
wasn't it? I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't know. I think there's 10 or 12 levels. I can't remember. I could start
Yeah.
listing them, but I'm sure no one wants me to.
Yeah. But yeah,
we'll say 10 or 12 hours.
yeah. So it's a pretty long one, but it was like because you kept getting that slow introduction, that slow, smooth introduction of information and novelty. It was such a beautiful thing, and I think that's something. Pacing is the fictional or writing term, and for TV shows and stuff. And I think that's what a lot of writers, a lot of people who create fiction, they don't do pacing well. I mean, even it's true for paintings too, where it's like, you know, all the information in the painting is in the middle. And I've seen people that more recently I've seen people starting to use the outsides of the paintings to include necessary information in.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's cool because your eyes pass around the painting, and you finally get to that middle bit that has the richest information, not necessarily the most. And Halo definitely had some great pacing, and I think that's my main takeaway from today is like you can have the greatest world you want, and you know, display it in the best way you think is possible. And if that pacing is off and you don't have like a clear question or a clear desire for the reader, the viewer of this art to continue, then it's not worth a hill of beans, is it? Because nobody's going to look at it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably one of the bigger things when I was looking at both this game and initially this was also going to include Halo Reach in it, but we decided that Halo CE was a better topic just by itself. But the pacing in that one was also very well done, as far as your introduction to the BBEG, your introduction to the bad guys, your introduction to higher ranking stuff, your introduction to, you know, tools and equipment that you can use as a story, as a main character. Also, one thing I cannot believe I didn't mention this yet, but the music. The music was phenomenal at the time. Marty O'Donnell put together a wonderful piece of music for Halo, and in that same vein, like how can you use music in your world? I know we talked about music and world building, and I've been trying better to use music in D&D settings. And I know one of my buddies, Evan, he uses music to like create scenes. So he'll have scenes in his head play out of kind of like a cut scene, if you will, for a movie, and he has a certain song in mind and will play that song or play that theme song whenever a character comes in. And I think that's just so cool because Halo definitely has that theme song,
I think like this was maybe not the first, but it was definitely one of the earlier like big budget games.
Well, actually, the budget was quite low on it.
Well, compared to what it is now, but I mean, like compared to other games at the time, it's like,
well, and
this had the weight of Microsoft behind it and the introduction of the new Xbox, which I'm not saying is big money, but it was big money for the time for gaming.
Yeah. And it's crazy is the amount of effort and energy they put into this. They did not know Halo was going to be a success. They did not bank on Halo being a success. And Halo was supposed to be a PC game.
Yeah.
And then they had to change it last minute within a year to make it available on the Xbox. And what they did in that year was crazy. Absolutely bonkers. Because if you look at the first viewing of Halo at, I can't remember what convention it is, but the first viewing of Halo is completely different. It was supposed to be an open world game. And kind of like
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
It was supposed to be an open world game
Makes
on
sense.
the PC, and then they had to change everything to first person shooter for the Xbox.
That's crazy.
So there was a lot of, you know, after it came out, of course, it is this huge success, and then got a lot more funding and things like that. But yeah, initially it was not that not the biggest budget game, honestly.
I feel like after it came out though, like that's about the time people started taking video games seriously as a source of revenue.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, so now we have voice actors that aren't like that one guy that speaks monotone, you know.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
there was a much bigger market for voice actors. There was a much bigger market for actually having soundtracks and specific songs and stuff,
Yeah.
because some of the music, like for the original Call of Duty, I mean, it was meh. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't even recall a song to you.
Oh yeah.
I can just remember that I heard the music and I was like, I'm gonna turn my TV down. Like
Yeah.
even the sound of the guns, it was like so metallic,
Hmm.
there was just not much effort put into sound design, I feel like. Which sorry if anybody who was working on that game is listening, but um it got better. It got
Yeah.
better is the main point. And so I feel like Halo and the war between PlayStation and Xbox really kicked off making games better for people.
Oh, for sure. 100%. I mean, we're not in the world that we're in with gaming without Halo. I don't think, and that's kind of a big statement to say, but I truly believe that helped the people see the vision for the Call of Duty series in a different way. Whatever your feelings are about Call of Duty, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I enjoyed some of the earlier games that they put out. Now I feel like they're just putting games out to put games out as a stream of revenue. But that, and then you talked about Gears of War. I think Gears of War definitely was able to take that sci-fi vibe and put another twist on shooter games, because that was a third-person shooter, and the story that it told was also another great story of humans trying to survive. So I think without Halo, we don't have those games, or maybe not as soon as we get those games, because it really revolutionized movement, mechanics, how to do things, and then Halo 2 again revolutionized stuff. Now we can dual wield, we can hold different weapons at the same time.
Oh, that was crazy.
Yeah,
That was
now
crazy.
the maps are getting even bigger, and then around that time, that's when Gears of War started coming out, and some of the other games that started coming out. And it was very interesting. And I'm sorry if I got anything wrong. A lot of this is based off of memory, but again, I played a lot of those games, and I'm pretty sure Gears of War was a 360 game, and Halo 2 came out for the 360, I believe, but
Yeah.
it was an Xbox game that could also play on the 360. And then Halo 3 was a 360 exclusive, which, if you don't know what that means, they're just different consoles. But yeah, so I mean that's Halo. Halo Combat Evolved. I mean, we can continue to go in depth into it as far as like weapon design, level design, enemies, music, gameplay. I mean, we kind of touched on all of it just a little bit to show, and then the story. Like that was what really caught me, and what continues to bring me back, because I enjoy the gameplay, I enjoy the story, and I enjoy getting a little refresher on what it was like before all the lore of Halo came out, because it was just like you said, polished, it was clean, it was simple, and it left a lot to the imagination. What are the Forerunners? What are the Flood? What happened where they had to be
It
contained?
almost
and
answered
like
no questions, right?
yeah. It gave you a lot of questions, and then Halo 2 gave you more questions, and then Halo 3 gave you, well, it tried to wrap up a lot of questions, but
Yeah,
still
it
gave
did.
you more questions.
And I don't know if it's always the case, or if you remember this, because I mean, back before the internet was as proliferated as it is now, like I can remember most of the people I interacted with about video games, they're like, yeah, I'm kind of bored with them. You
Mhm.
know, about that time, right before this, like, explosion of Halo and Gears of War and Call of Duty too, was like, yeah, okay, there's going to be another Madden game that comes out, and there's going to
Yeah.
be, another racing game. And I don't know, I'm really kind of done with games. And this was like, I mean, we were teenagers, right?
Yeah.
And then, Halo came out, and then it was like, oh, snap. Like, everybody's getting on to play that multiplayer, too.
Yeah, for sure.
Multiplayer was really dying out. I feel like couch co op was taken over, and then it was like there was nobody to play anything with online.
Mhm.
And then suddenly it blew up. So I know there's always this inclination of negativity in the gaming community saying, well, there's never going to be another good game, or art in general, where it's like,
Yeah.
we're never going to have what we used to have. And then there's something that comes along that reinvigorates the community and the art. And
my gosh,
Halo
yeah.
was that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I was even thinking like, okay, what were some of the shooter PlayStation games? I think it was just Call of Duty, because I just looked up,
Battlefront.
the old Battlefront games, because it took inspiration from Halo, man. Like It gave you a limited amount of weapons. It turned first person. You could also do third person shooter with it. Like it also like Halo started the revolution of getting things better. And whether it was first or it started it, they take credit as starting it.
Yeah. Either way, it was the best version of it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're rolling with.
Yeah, right.
If you'd like to hear anything more in depth about the Halo universe or about Halo CE, let us know in the comments or in the questions if you're over on Spotify where we are technically housed. Let us know. We'd be happy to. If you want another conversation to be behind the paywall on Patreon when we get that rolling here in the next several weeks, let us know that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Be happy to create more content for you guys.
Absolutely.
And if you would like to help out the channel, and we hope you would, like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. We're trying to hit 500 this year. We're pretty new over there.
Yeah.
We've uploaded a lot of our older episodes over there, but it's nowhere near the catalog or time we put into Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
Although most of the catalog is deleted off of Spotify at this point because a lot of that early stuff was pretty rough, and I'm trying to keep that quality level high. So although this is the 5th year of the podcast, I looked that up the other day.
Nice.
The 5th year of the podcast, there's only, I think this will be in the 70s, maybe 80s by the time this one comes out. So
Sweet.
Anyway, so help us out. We also have merch over on our Instagram and all that stuff. So help us out any way you can. We really appreciate you guys listening, creatives, wherever you are on this little globe of ours. Thank you for coming along and listening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for watching the Creative Thinker podcast. We put a lot of love and attention into every show, and with that comes a lot of time and money.
You can help us out through the support links in the description. You can sponsor an episode. You can subscribe to our Patreon. And as always, you can follow, like, subscribe, and share all of our channels.
We are eternally grateful for your support as we continue to bring you more episodes of the Creative Thinker podcast.
Creative thinkers all over the globe. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.